SVG's Jason Dachman here, another episode of SVG SportsTech On Demand, and I am joined by Roger Singh, Director of Business Development for Media and Entertainment at Nutanix. Roger, really appreciate you joining us. First and foremost, is everybody safe in your household, as well as the Nutanix team as a whole, and where are you calling us from today?
Hi, Jason. Thanks for asking. Yes, everyone's safe. The Nutanix team is doing well. My family's doing well. I'm calling from New York City. I'm actually the South Shore of Long Island.
Okay, great. Now, Nutanix is a company that's focused very much on cloud infrastructure, hybrid cloud infrastructure. But for those that aren't familiar with you guys, give us a little overview of the offering that you guys provide to the media and entertainment sector.
Sure. So we're a leader in hyper-converged infrastructure. So a completely software-defined stack that combines storage, compute resources, virtualization built in, so choice of virtualization, whether our built-in Acropolis hypervisor leveraging VMware ESXi or Microsoft Hyper-V, and we shrink wrap that into modern HTML5 front end where customers can really simplify the deployment and consume those resources.
Excellent. So NAB is not happening this year, at least physically in person in Vegas, but there's still plenty of news to share with the industry, and I'm sure Nutanix is no different in that respect. So what would you have announced, and what were you going to highlight at the show that you'd like to share with the industry here?
Yeah, so this year was going to be, our first big Vegas NAB. We've done NAB New York in the past. And one of the things we were going to showcase here is obviously our solutions around virtual post-production, remote editing being that, and virtualizing, full ecosystems, and one of those ecosystems being Avid, and talk about our strategic partnership there. So that was really going to be the highlight of our show, and just get customers familiar with our platform and our cloud strategy, really.
Okay. Well, look, the idea of remote and cloud-based solutions has never been in more demand than it is right now with everything that's happening in the world. What are you seeing from the clients that you have currently in terms of how they're adapting? How are they moving to some of these remote workflows, remote desktops, still being able to manage their content and access their content without actually being within their facility? What are some of the big trends that you're seeing among your customers today?
Yeah, so I think the big trend here is from a post-production perspective is obviously remote editing and having those remote capabilities from graphic design, things like that. But hybrid is a big thing right now. Customers really want, whether they're built for it or not, they want to be able to plug their on-prem workflow and their public cloud workflow together. And they want to be able to really use the cloud as an elastic stretch of their on-prem capabilities. So I think that's the wish, but also there's some challenges around that for many of the customers who haven't really architected a cloud platform first and are trying to make their legacy architectures work in the climate that we're in right now.
Right. So for those that haven't architected their ecosystems with that in mind and are suddenly forced into this situation where they're saying, okay, we need to embrace the cloud and we need to do it now. What kind of advice do you have for those organizations, and how can you guys potentially help them make that shift somewhat seamlessly without any kind of downtime in their operation?
Yeah, so I think a lot of customers are looking for as a service. Can they use the same applications? Can they deploy that can they consume that as a service? Other customers that are looking to re-architect their solution. Really, Nutanix is a cloud-first platform that's capable, that customers are able to take advantage in bite-sized chunks. So I think leveraging Nutanix with a public cloud model really speaks to what we can do. So Nutanix is able to allow customers to deploy their workflows on-prem on our platform. We're allowed customers to take those same workflows, deploy it in the public cloud, move them back and forth, really stitching together public and private and giving them seamless interface to do that with. There are not really any platforms out there that do that today, and I think that's really where customers are going to be living in this hybrid world going forward.
Right. And look, hybrid is the buzzword right now. I think that there was a time in the M&E industry a few years ago when everybody was sprinting towards the cloud, right? And they said, we're going to move our entire operation into the cloud. And there were some people who say, I like to have, a tape in my hand and physical infrastructure, iron, to make them feel a little bit safer. And now we really hit that sweet spot, it seems like, where everybody who's really thinking about the future has one foot in the cloud, one foot in on-prem, and is just trying to figure out where, how that ecosystem can function as best as possible. Would you agree with that we're really hitting that hybrid moment? And if so, how do you see that continuing to evolve in the coming years?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Especially with what we're going through now, customers who weren't necessarily prepared to make that decision are being forced to make that decision right now. I think it's wise. I think, customers need to really look at how do they, adopt the public cloud in a smart manner, an approach that they can leverage all the things they've built on-prem. Listen, there's workflows that are going to succeed in the public cloud, and there's workflows that still really need to straddle both private and public. I think going forward, we're going to see a lot more evolution with regards to M&E application vendors, really modernizing the way they deploy it, their applications, adopting more virtualization, adopting more cloud-first initiatives. So I think there's going to be a whole tectonic shift here happening, a modernization across M&E, just outside of video over IP or SMPTE 2110. We're going to see a whole re-architect of platforms and how the traditional M&E, I would say, broadcasters really deploy their solutions.
Right. Well, you mentioned the partnership with Avid that you guys were going to unveil at NAB, and that brings up the point of just how important it is to have the various pieces of the ecosystem intact if you are going to move more towards the cloud and institute some cloud-based infrastructure and workflows. Can you speak to how important that is to make sure that you have those partnerships, to make sure that Nutanix is integrated with some of those established M&E tools?
Yeah, I think it's very important. Customers want to feel the comfort that they have the support of the, not just the infrastructure platform that they're using, but also their application vendors that they've been using for 10, 15, 20 years. That hold the key to their success. That really drives their business. Those applications that drive the business that they use to really monetize their content. Having the comfort level that those application vendors have partnered with infrastructure platforms or companies, and both companies are doing co-engineering, I think that's a necessity for anyone in this industry, at least.
Okay, great. So thus far, we've talked about what's sort of happening right now. Obviously, everyone's business is evolving at a breakneck pace, and they have to. But at some point, hopefully sooner than later, we're going to come out the other side of this, and studios are going to light up again. Sports will start again. Content will start being created again. How are the changes happening now going to impact the way that organizations function in the future? What do you think the long-term impact of this is going to be in the way that people build out their production and post-production workflows?
Yeah, so I think everyone's going to have a new approach, and that approach is really going to be around how do we leverage more, how do we consume platforms that are more portable versus just building these standalone solutions, and how do we make that elastic where we can have a set resource for this function, but when things like this that we're going through right now happen and we need to really stretch those resources in a very easy way, how do we build towards that? So I think people are going to look at this, come out of this and looking at things very, very differently. And cloud platforms are going to play a bigger role in the M&E architecture and in the M&E space than they have ever been before.
Yeah, and how do you see the increased use of the cloud opening up new possibilities for the industry? It's not just a matter of necessity. It's also a matter of them being able to be more flexible, be more scalable, create have new features that maybe they didn't have at their disposal in the past, such as AI and things like that you can do in the cloud. What are some of the cool things that you can do in the cloud after you've actually gotten there?
Yeah, I think with cloud platforms, the machine learning is definitely a big part. Having machine learning across your media assets, taking that manual approach out of logging and inserting text, things like that. Those cognitive services, logo identification, object identification, those are all real great benefits of cloud platforms. I also think, direct to consumer is a huge part. If you want to reach, the streaming platforms, obviously. So I think, overall workflows are going to evolve to really take advantage of not just, the automation, the machine learning, but direct to consumer models are going to be, and they are already being developed on these cloud platforms.
Yeah, it opens up a whole new world of possibilities, I would think. Do you have any specific messaging to the Nutanix customers out there that are trying to figure out what to do next, trying to figure out how to manage their operation today while preparing for tomorrow, and also dealing with, legacy infrastructure as well? What are you kind of telling everyone as they're trying to just get through these next few days and prepare for what's coming down the line?
Yeah, so for our customers, existing customers, we've been messaging, we've been helping our customers get by with a lot of different services, but for the most part, customers really are looking for us to help them. Like you mentioned, some of their infrastructure is still legacy while they're Nutanix customers, and how do they migrate those workflows? Do they migrate them straight to Nutanix? Do they put them in the public cloud? And I think our hybrid strategy with allowing customers to consume the public cloud with Nutanix software is really something that customers are receptive to, and we're gonna see a lot more transition that way.
Yeah, I think there's no question about that. Well, Roger, we really appreciate you taking the time, and our best to the entire Nutanix team, and stay safe, stay healthy.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah, and the best to SVG, and thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Sure. For more episodes of SVG Sports Tech On Demand, stay tuned to sportsvideo.org and the SVG YouTube channel.